Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to tonight. I'm excited you're here. We've been asked to talk about stress because stress relates to our health in umpteenth degrees. So just to introduce myself, I am Beth Black from Lose Sickness Spine Wellness, and we do these podcasts to be able to bring education to people in all aspects of natural health. So there's so many different touch points, and we have lots of different guests on here, but I too am a proponent of natural health from my own story and my own healing journey. So with that being said, I want to get started because quite honestly, I spent most of my childhood under a lot of unnecessary stress, because stress a lot of times can be perceived, meaning what I think is stressful, the next person might not find as stressful. And so we really need to dig into this a little deeper. And so I hope you'll join me for the next half hour to go through all of this information that I have for you to share tonight. So let's look at a natural approach to stressing less. I do have to tell you, these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products that I discuss are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We are here just simply to share stories and education and knowledge that we have gained over time. So what is stress? Stress is truly just the reaction that people have to excessive pressures. So think of like a caterpillar. A caterpillar has to go through a very stressful process to become a beautiful butterfly. Think of the chicken. The chicken has to put stress or pressure on the egg to get out. So stress can be a very good thing, but stress can also be a bad thing. And I think most of us as humans look at stress as something that's not good for us because we're overburdened with a lot of extra stress that we didn't have years and years ago. You know, back in the day, the stress was I have to go out and find food and hunt for my food. And I'm talking many, many, many eons ago. But now you can just walk to the refrigerator and open the door for most people. So it's the demand that's placed on something that produces a reaction. And so it's that wear and tear sometimes on our mind that creates that perception of how we're going to respond to some kind of stimuli that's creating that stress. So there's what's called good stress, and that's eustress. EU stress is good stress. That would be like I go and I exercise. In order to get stronger, I need to put stress on my muscles, on my cardiovascular system, on my heart, in order to get a good positive response by the body. But if I overdo it, then I've got bad stress or distress, meaning I've taken myself into a distress situation that it is not good for the body, not good for the mind. So when we look at eustress versus distress, eustress makes you feel better and distress makes you feel worse. Eustress is typically for most people infrequent. Distress is something that it goes on and on and on. I don't know where you drive to each day, but I know a lot of people get in their car and there's a lot of stress dealing with traffic, dealing with the stress of getting on the road and dealing with all of that traffic and people weaving and bobbing and braking and everything else. Maybe that's not you. Maybe you have stress at home. Maybe you have stress in your own environment at work. And although you go to work and you might enjoy your job, you have the stress around you of the different people or the pressures of deadlines. It's different for everyone, but good stress doesn't last long. It's something that puts stress on something and the response is very positive. Distress goes on, it lasts for a while and it wears and tears on you. And again, it's that perception, because when we look at different things, sometimes perception is everything to someone in terms of how they respond to that stress. So I ask you, when you look at this picture, does this put you in good stress of, oh, this would be so amazing to do, of jumping out of an airplane and having a parachute floating down? Or is this distress and your heart is already palpitating? So I tell you, I have never jumped out of a plane. I don't plan to ever jump out of a plane unless it's a perfectly Good plane that is maybe on the ground and I'm jumping a couple feet down. Or maybe the plane is in distress and I have to jump out to save my life, and that's my only option. That's pretty much the only reason I would jump out of a plane. However, I have friends of mine, and I actually have a son who has jumped out of a plane. And I could tell you my heart was beating so heavily as a mom until he reached that ground, because my perception was one of fear. And I'm not saying that we need to live in fear, or we should. I am one that preaches all the time, don't live in fear. However, there's certain things perception wise that affect each of us differently. So how do you perceive the stress that you're dealing with? So I know there's always a couple people that are into the science. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on science, but I think this is what's important. It's important for us to understand the science behind the stress response or behind any response, because if we don't understand the science, then what happens is we don't grab the concept completely to be able to really own it. And so I want you to own this stress response so that you can resolve the stress response, because there's so many natural ways to resolve stress. So we'll get into that in a minute, but let's look at it. So first of all, your mind is going to perceive this. Is it a stressor? Is it a physical? And I say your mind, your body, your physical body might with exercise, but it goes to the brain, the hypothalamus, and it's going to now perceive what to do with this stress. Hormones start getting released into the body. And so you're releasing hormones, which are part of your adrenal system. So your adrenal system is your hormonal system. Hormones are very, very good for the body, but they can also work against the body. If you get too much cortisol going on, it's going to affect your insulin levels, and it can affect weight loss or weight gain. It can affect how the rest of the body responds, because here's the thing, there are no fences in your body. So although we have a cardiovascular system, we have a respiratory system, we have the adrenal system, all these systems are not independent. They're interdependent. And so they act together. And so one thing that affects one system is going to ride over and affect another system. And so here's the thing about the adrenal system. The adrenal system is not usually your life or death situation. Your adrenals are something that can thrive, and I say thrive, in very stressful ongoing conditions for a longer time before they flow over and start affecting things like your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, things that are vital organs to your body that are in the other systems. And so what happens is you can go on and on with stress, working on you, wearing and tearing on you day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, years after years, before it shows up as disease. And so let's talk about what we can do, because we can offset a lot of this. You have what's called a fight or flight response. Thank you, God. This is an amazing response. This is where, when you go into that quick stress, that heavy stress situation, that you happen to run into an animal that you don't want to run into, or that animal is fighting or flighting, okay? We all have this, every animal has this fight or flight response. The thing is, we get to perceive it in our mind much stronger as humans than an animal does in the animal kingdom. And an animal just kind of responds and either fights or they flight. We tend to take that and harbor it inside our thought process. And so what happens is it can become acute stress if we are fighting or flighting quickly. And it was for biosurvival reasons. We needed to survive. And now we get out of the situation a couple minutes later and our heart is pounding and we now recover. Okay. But if we end up with that kind of stress over and over again, and maybe it's not that immediate response of, I have to run or I have to fight. Maybe it's just a little bit each day. That's chronic stress, because it's not something that we need to stimulate on a regular, everyday basis, but the biochemical response is the same inside the body. And so it is now responding every minute, every second, and it's creating this wear and tear, not only on the physical, but also on the physiological stress response. We were not designed to be able to deal with that on a chronic daily basis. So what was designed to save our life of that fight or flight is now putting your health in jeopardy. And so we want to look at what can we do, because like I said, it's affecting all systems of the body. These systems, it doesn't matter. All of these things you see listed here are indicators of stress. So I ask you, do you personally, or do you know someone that's dealing with any of these challenges? Most humans are, even children nowadays are. We shouldn't be dealing with these ongoing stressors on a regular daily basis. And so it starts to affect things like our brain, our thought process. It affects our digestion. It affects weight, like I mentioned before. It can bleed over into your cardiovascular and affect your heart and your cardiovascular system. It definitely affects sleep. And when sleep's affected, it bleeds over into the rest of the body as well. Your skin is your largest organ. So whatever is going on in here, toxic wise, is going to try and get out of the body. And it tries to get out of the body through the skin, which is the largest organ, if it's not coming out in other ways, through all the orifices that you have, as well as through thought process. So what do we do? Because if it's affecting all these things, I know that I always say a lot of times in our society, people don't respond until they hit a brick wall. I hope that you're not at the brick wall. I hope we've caught you before the brick wall. But if you are at the brick wall, I tell you, there are ways to get and overcome these situations. There's ways to fill in the gaps, to be able to start taking that one step forward. And those steps get a little bit bigger and a little bit faster, and you're able to start moving forward again in life. There are answers, and we are happy to share some of those with you. So here are some of my strategies that I want to share with you. You know, the first one is obvious. Take a break from the stressor. Whatever's causing stress, take a break. Well, sometimes it's easier said than done, isn't it? You know, why is it that it's no problem for a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old to say no? But we get to be teenagers and then young adults and then older adults or middle adults or seniors. And we have a lot of people have a hard time saying the 2-letter word no, the simplest word in our language, and people can't use it. I know this because this was me many, many years ago. I had a hard time telling people no, and I took on so many things. And I think I'm speaking to a lot of moms out there right now. We take on a lot of things. And then when I say moms, I know too, I know a lot of single dads, or a lot of dads that the mom isn't as present because of a work situation. So we have to try and take these breaks from the stressors, because let's face it, if we don't take care of ourselves, what use are we to everyone else? You know, when we get on an airplane, what do? They tell you, they show you the seatbelts, and they show you the oxygen mask, and they tell you, make sure you put the oxygen mask on yourself first if there's an emergency, and then turn to the person next to you to help them. It doesn't matter what age level that person is next to you. You take care of you first, because when you give yourself oxygen, you will be that much more of an advantage to taking care of other people. So we have to remember that when it comes to the stress in our lives. Reduce your own stress so that you can take care of yourself and take care of those around you in a much better way. So exercise, I always say exercise is way beyond physical exercise. Exercise is mental, spiritual, and physical, and sexual. Yes, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people have decreased the amount of stress. I'm sorry, decreased the amount of sex in their life. And because of that, they're not getting that stress outlet. Yes, sex is a stress outlet. So let's be honest about that with ourselves. If you are not partaking in that, it is part of your natural human function that God gave us. And so therefore, it is something that's going to help reduce stress when done in the right way. And that's important. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother seminar. But again, the next one really speaks for it, and that's smile and laugh. We should be having sex in a happy situation, not in a feeling like we are controlled situation. That is not healthy eustress. Okay, so smile and laugh. Humor, the best medicine. Everything starts up here, mind over matter. So mind over physical. The physical body is controlled very much by the mindset that someone has. So laughing every day, smiling, Force yourself to smile when you see people. Walk down the street, see how many people you can get to smile back, make a game out of it within yourself. Go get social support. Do not isolate yourself when you're dealing with stress, because then we tend to take it on. I'm not saying go out and unload all of your bucket to someone else who doesn't want to hear it, but there are always people in everyone's life who are there for you at every turn, and there's professionals where needed. Meditate and breathe deeply. I'm going to take a second here. I want all of you to just think about this. We're going to do an exercise. I'm going to have you close your eyes in a minute, and I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath, the deepest breath you possibly can take. And then I want you, when you get to that deepest breath, hold it for about 2 to 3 seconds before you start releasing it back out. And when you release it back out, release it as slowly as you can and as fully as you can. And let's see how we feel at the end of those couple of seconds that we do that. Are you ready? So on the count of 3, I want you to take a deep breath. Close your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in as deep as you can. Hold it for 1, 2, 3 seconds and start blowing out through your mouth slowly, as fully as you possibly can, till you finish that breath fully. And open your eyes, and I ask you, how do you feel? Do you feel a little bit calmer than you did just a minute ago? Did just taking that deep breath make you feel good? Or did taking that deep breath maybe create a little stress for you because breathing deep is not easy for you? If that's the case, I would tell you start right there, just with that one exercise, numerous times per day. It is one of the healthiest things we can do. Most humans are not breathing deep enough, and we are built from oxygen. So we need to take that oxygen in as much as possible every day. So breathe deep. I already talked about learning to say no. Make time for fun, relaxation, look for balance in your life. A lot of people are overworked. Again, you are not going to continue to be long-term available for that work if you don't take care of yourself first. So really look to find those ways to balance. Drinking clean water. We are made up of water, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals. That's what makes up the building blocks of the body. So if we drink clean water, which is 70% of our body makeup, then we are going to be flushing things out, which also helps to keep stress under control. Eat well. Low glycemic makes the most sense. And we have many other podcasts that will be available on that topic. I'm not going to go into low glycemic, but it's healthy, clean eating. And we will be talking about that because that is a long-term lifestyle that is attainable and something someone can stick to for the rest of their life and have a healthy response system to healthy eating. And supplement with adaptogens and other essential nutrients. And we'll get into this because supplementing with adaptogens means there's certain things that we put in our body, plant-based, that actually adapt to the body's need. This is really cool. If your body needs energy, for example, because you're low on energy, there are certain things you can put into your body and it will lift your energy up. If you are high on energy and feeling like you can't focus, those same exact plant items can be put in someone's body and actually calm them. They adapt to what the body needs. This is very, very cool because this means that we have things out in our plant environment that actually can feed our systems. And sometimes it's easier to fill in the gaps than it is to make huge, major changes in our life right away. Sometimes it's easier to get a little extra energy or a little extra focus or a little calmness before we start making changes of food. So you can see here what are stress-inducing foods versus which are stress-reducing foods. I would tell you most people know that they shouldn't be eating what's on the left of the screen. They should be eating what's on the right of the screen. However, the question is, how many of you are eating 90% from the right side of the screen? I find when I sit down with my clients, most people are eating somewhere between 30 and 70, 80% from the left side of the screen. And sometimes they don't even know it because there's a lot of hidden ingredients in our foods. So this is something we also will do more podcasts on, so stay tuned for that. I don't know if you know this, but stress spelled backwards is desserts. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things about how words were designed and where our words are today, but I find this very, very intriguing. And I want to just say, you cannot be in a state of stress and build health at the same time. If you want to build health, you do have to fill in those gaps to be able to get things going, to be able to take that step forward, to be able to bring some calmness to the body. So let's dive into what does that mean? Nutritional support comes in the way of food or supplements. Foods are great. However, majority of the foods we see in our grocery store, in our restaurants, available to us are very null and void of nutrients today. The nutrient density is very low. So I always encourage people, let's look at plants that truly feed the body. Now, a lot of times people go, oh, I don't like those kinds of plants. They're bitter, they're this, they're that. That's why they come in a supplement format. But what's important is to have synergistic formulas, meaning you want things that work together in the body. So adaptogens, which I talked about, that adapt to your body of what your body needs, are herbs that work synergistically to reduce the impact of stress. So they help to bring a normal homeostasis to the body. So a normal homeostasis to the thought process. These are things that we have plant-based products that can actually be able to calm the system down, calm the thought process down, relax the body without the side effect of drowsiness. It's very important that people want to continue to function. We all want function out of our lives. I don't want to have to take something and then go lay down for 4 hours because I'm out of it. So that's why I looked at plant-based items, because I wanted to be able to have healthy function in my body and not have side effects after side effects after side effects. So what are some of these ingredients that work in synergy? Well, these are just some standardized botanical ingredients that you want to consider. And I say standardized because if you're not getting a standardized ingredient, that means it's up for debate where it's coming from. It's up for debate whether it actually meets within the requirements of what's been studied to work on the body. These are all things that have been determined to work on the body. So like you look down and you see, I'm going to point out some words here: possibly causing relaxing effects without impairing memory or motor skills. Important if you want to continue to keep up with your kids and your family and your job, drive a vehicle. We don't want all those side effects. We want relaxing effects without that. L-theanine is an amino acid with relaxing effects. Remember, I said our bodies are made up of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and water. So we have amino acids that are very important building blocks. And if we're not getting them and we're not taking them, typically we used to get these through our foods. But our foods are so null and void today that we're not getting a lot of these things, which is why we're seeing such a heightened change in stress patterns. And so when we look at some of these things, ginseng supports mental acuity and physical endurance without the letdown that comes with caffeinated products. So here's the thing: a lot of times people are taking in caffeine and then they deal with the crash, or they're taking caffeine and they feel better for a little bit and then they feel a little bit of almost depression or mood drop. You don't need to do that. There are plant items, plant ingredients, when put synergistically with other things in right formulations, that actually feed and nourish the body. One of my favorites is the sensual ashwagandha root. It is an adaptogenic, so it adapts to the body of what it needs. It comes from the Indian herbs, but it manages that adrenal stress that I just talked about, that hormonal stress. So you'll see here, the thyroid is part of your adrenal system. So it's helping with normal regulation of that. Holy basil. I love saying that. Holy basil is adaptogenic as well, and it's calming. Okay. Thymoquin or black cumin seed. Oh my. This actually supports memory, cognition, attention. It's also an immune builder. Black cumin seed does so much for the body. And then full spectrum hemp oil. This is not your CBD. This is actually hemp oil in its finest root ingredient to be able to bring on that feeling of calmness without any of the side effects. So this is not medical marijuana. This is not CBD. It's actually full spectrum hemp oil, which hemp is the oil that comes from the plant. And so this, again, these are ingredients that when combined properly with other ingredients, you're going to be able to get formulations that bring results to people. I always say, before you jump into that though, we are built off of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and water. So with that being said, a very, very simple place to start a process to be able to take that one little step forward that I talked about is to start with a daily B complex. But it's not just a B12 formula. It's not just a B6 formula. B vitamins cannot be made inside your body. You have to take them. They're considered essential, meaning your body doesn't make it, you have to take it. B vitamins are critical for metabolic functions. So metabolic functions have to do with how your metabolism works, which is all integrated into that adrenal system as well. B vitamins are hard to get in our diet today because they come from red meat in very, very high quantities. And they come from your green leafy vegetables and some of your fruits, but in a very, very high concentration of eating those. So if you're juicing and doing things like that every single day and eating 7 to 10 servings of raw leafy greens, then you might not need B vitamins, but I can tell you this. There is a gene that tells us majority of Americans, a very high percentage of Americans, do not metabolize B vitamins properly to get them to be used in the body. And so with that being said, I always say we need to look for a B vitamin formula that is a B complex of all the Bs together, that is in an activated state. So that very first bullet you see there says activated forms. You want an activated state, meaning it's methylated, meaning it can be taken into the body and utilized by the body immediately to be able to support all of the functions that B vitamins deal with. So that would be the stress, your moods, being able to maintain healthy levels of serotonin, to be able to address your energy. So again, B vitamins are adaptive. If you are somebody that needs focus, B vitamins can actually bring some calmness and focus. If you're somebody that needs a lift of energy, then B vitamins will do that. If you're somebody that might need to like calm down at night because you can't go to sleep so easily, B vitamins taken right before bed can sometimes help somebody just go to sleep and have a nice calm sleep. So again, very important to make sure you're supplementing B vitamins, and a very, very easy, simple step to start with. So what do you look for in nutraceuticals? I will say quality matters. My own personal story was I was on bowlfuls and bowlfuls of nutraceuticals. I was getting some results better than what I was dealing with on the other end of the spectrum of being in a disease state, but I had times that I had a hard time taking all these. So it was really important for me to find different quality supplements that gave me the biggest bang for my buck, meaning I could take them and not feel like I was having to choke down bowls and bowls of vitamins and minerals and amino acids to support my health journey. And in that, I found quality ingredients sourced properly were so important, and making sure that the combinations were there so that when I took something, I didn't have to take 10 different things. I could take a formulation where everything was working in synergy with one another. I wanted the best possible delivery. Was that delivery going to be an IV where I got hooked up to an IV? That wasn't something that I was really able to do. I had 2 little ones at home with me. I had a husband. I was busy. How about isotonics, which is the closest next to an IV, but you drink it? How about a capsule, a tablet, a liquid? All of these things need to be evaluated to know what's the difference. And that's what we will get into if you decide to fill out our form on losesicknessfindwellness.com, fill out our health survey and get a free 15-minute consult so we can discuss some of these things with you. You'd never want artificial dyes or flavors. You do not want GMOs, which are genetically modified organisms. Those are not natural. And you surely don't want gluten, wheat, dairy, and things like that in your vitamins. You want good quality ingredients. So your health is an investment. It's not an expense. It's investing in yourself. I always say it's the best insurance policy you can do is investing in your health and doing the right things. And so we are here to take inventory of your health with you. We have our health survey. You can simply go take that health survey on losesicknessfindwellness.com. Take the health survey. We will then set up a time to discuss your results with you in a free 15-minute consult to see what is the next step, if somewhere to be able to go with you, because only you know what your wellness is worth to you. I don't know that. No one else knows that. Your doctor doesn't know that. Only you know what your wellness is worth to you. So if 0 is the absence of symptoms, you have no symptoms at 0. Where do you stand on the scale? Do you have symptoms that are causing you angst, meaning anxiety and stress, or a physical ailment, or headaches, migraines, pains? What are you dealing with inside your body on that scale? Where are you? Are you in the negative zone? If so, how far to the negative? If you're in the positive zone, are you at a +1, a +2? Are you feeling pretty good? The whole idea is here that if you're anywhere to the left of +5, you have the ability to move to a +5. Yes, you deserve to feel good. So the question is, where would you like to be? Many times I get people who are at a -3 who say, I would be happy to be at 0. So we just have to look at, where are you currently? Where would you like to move to? And how do we move in that direction naturally? By supporting the body to be able to get out of that distress state that's leading to a disease state. So I encourage you to ask us for an anti-stress cocktail to try it. We have samples for you to try. If you would like to try an anti-stress cocktail, again, it's something that gets mixed with water. It is a crystal formula that looks like Jell-O gelatin in its dry state. You mix it with water in the correct proportion, and it becomes a deliverable into your body system at a very, very high potency. So we know that we're getting that in and absorbing it so that we can get the nutrients we need and also the critical components that work synergistically together. So what is out of your control and what is in your control? To close this out tonight, I just want to say, I spent a lot of my younger years always, my mother called me a worrywart. I was always focused on that gray area. What was happening around me? What was the past? What was the future? I want to encourage you, do whatever you can to get into the colorful, beautiful part of your brain that is in your control, setting your boundaries, controlling your thoughts and actions, focusing on your internal self and the goals you set and what you're going to give your energy to. And how are you speaking to yourself? All of these are so huge in our health process and our health journey. And so I just want to thank you for joining me tonight with the Stress and Your Health, a Natural Approach to Stress Management. And visit us on losesicknessfindwellness.com. We've got all kinds of things there for you to read, recipes to try. We've got the health survey, we've got a lifestyle survey, and I look forward to meeting you at some point in the future. Take care and be healthy.